Hello everyone, I hope you're well. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I thought we'd create another journal page this time. So every time I pick the journal up, I have a look through it. I love looking through the pages. It's just wonderful. So let's go and find another page. I'm getting through the pages quite quickly. Right, let's move that out of the way. I've got a spare piece of card just on one side if I need it, and I'm going to be using my 3x5 gel plate. There we go. So I'm just going to enjoy the process. So I'll take my 3x5 gel press. Do I want to use the gel press or do I want to do the whole? I might do the whole page actually. But then, no, I know what I'll use the gel press for. Just take my gel press. I'm going to use it as my base. And I'm going to use gathered twigs. And a paler colour. Why do I never get the paler colour out? Because I'm terrible. So I'm going to use antique linen and gathered twigs. So I'm sort of going to use my gel plate just to apply the inks. So I've got the antique linen and then I'm going to use a little bit of gathered twigs. What's hilarious is that's a piece of gold leaf. So I'm going to use my gel plate and I'm just going to apply the ink around my card just to get the base. I don't even need that, just to get the base of the colour just moving around the card. I can actually put this onto an acrylic block. There we go. So I'm going to just apply some water to my card. Let's just wipe underneath because you know me by now, I spray the water everywhere. I'm going to take the antique linen again and then little touches of gathered twigs. And then I'm going to spritz that. I'm just going to add it and move it around my page. Nice easy way to break down a page without worrying about, there you go, page is broken down, no problem at all. And I'm going to use a little bit of water so that that oxidizes. And then I'm just going to move a little bit of the colour. Let's just move it so that it's, there we go. Just move that just so that it breaks up some of that page at the top as well. There we go. So we've got a nice wet page there. And then I'm going to give that a little bit of a dry. So let's give that a dry. I've got my heat tool. And I love the fact that these pages will take the moisture quite easily. Now, if you don't want any of the ink to go onto your next page, it doesn't bother me in the slightest, but if you don't want any of the ink to go to your page underneath, then just add some copier paper to the page underneath. Because obviously you get a little bit, I've got a little bit underneath there. That doesn't bother me in the slightest. Sometimes it's the beginning of another page. But if you don't want that, just place some copier paper underneath. But this paper within this Pink Pig journal takes the moisture really nicely. So I'm just giving that a really thorough dry because it's got lots of moisture in there. And nothing seeps through apart from that's just seeped down the side, but nothing seeps through to the other side of the page, which is just wonderful. So let's give this a really thorough dry. And then I'm going to take more layers. So just add the antique linen, and a little bit of the gathered twigs. And I've really added quite a bit of moisture on there. The worst thing is when your moisture gets underneath your acrylic block, because then you're just sliding it all over the place. So I'm going to add another layer of that ink. There we go, just so I get a little bit more richness of that colour. A little sort of few splatters so that oxidises. Just give that a nice dry with that heat tool, and you can see that oxidises when you add that water. But by all means add some kitchen roll underneath your page if you wish, so that you don't get anything going under the edges of the next page. So just giving this a thorough dry now, and if you turn it over you can see there's no seepage through there here. That's just me on the edges when it runs, but there's no seepage underneath, which is just fantastic. So let's just give that a really good dry. I may as well add the little dots of ink that are just on there. There's nothing left on there now. I can just wipe the edges just so that my gel plate is not covered in moisture. This gold leaf is still on the somehow underneath. Let's move that on one side. So I'm then going to take my grunge stencil. So let's grab that grunge stencil, and we'll take the gathered twigs. I think I've got gathered twigs online. So let's take the gathered twigs. So if you use the back, that's it. So we'll just take the gathered twigs. That's lovely. And then I'm going to spritz that with water. So I've just spritzed the stencil with water. And I'm just going to place this onto the background. There we go. And then we can just blot that. I like to give it a few seconds just to sort of do its job. Just make sure that it sort of makes an impression onto the surface. I don't want to lift it too soon, just so it's got plenty of time just to absorb into that surface. Wonderful, absolutely wonderful. And if you wish, so I've turned the stencil that way. Obviously I could have just placed that onto another piece of card, but to be honest, I have that many backgrounds, it's just mad. I need to use them. Right, let's just clean that up. Then let's use the other side, and we'll use a little bit here. So you can just pick different areas. You can use different sides of the stencil. It's entirely up to you. I'm going to add a little bit here as well. And you can see I never rush what I'm doing. So we've got a little bit of ink still on here. Let's add a little bit there. And a little bit on here. So just spreading that ink round a little bit. There we go. So let's give this a clean. And you can see now we have broken down our page nice and easily to break down so that we're not frightened of that open page. Just give that a good dry. There we go, nice and dry on there. Let's grab my ink that I want. And honestly, it doesn't matter what colour I look for, that colour always seems to be at the bottom. You couldn't make it up. Whoops. So then I'm going to take the Auricula stamp. So let's take our Auricula stamp, which is TE2. Let's put TE2, let's put that on. And you can see this is why you put it in the wallet, because if, like me, you haven't cleaned the stamps and they're well used, which mine are super well used, you need to just give that a little bit of a clean, because then it just re-sticks. Top quality stamps, so it works beautifully. Take my Auricula stamp and then decide. Now I want 2 of those, so let's see if we've got an Auricula, which we have, that's already cut out here. Wonderful. So I'm going to take the Auricula and I'm stamping with Twilight Versafine Clair. I've got this colour in the shop, so let's just ink that with the Twilight. There we go. Now give that plenty of inking. I'm just going to sort of wipe that bit of text off at the moment. There we go. And then decide where you want your Auricula. So I'm going to have one around about there. Like so. And obviously I'm going to colour that. Now, my journal is solid underneath. It's got no lumps and bumps. If you've got some lumps and bumps, just make sure you put a hardback book or something underneath. So let's just give that a really good press. I'm not breaking my wrists, I'm just pressing with my fingers and keeping 2 fingers always on there so that we don't get any wobble. And because I've got still moisture in that page, even though you've seen me dry it, there will still be moisture. Let's lift that up. There we go. Oh, just a gorgeous colour, and we're going to colour that. So let's place this. I can never tell which way. Oh, for once in my life, I've placed it down the first time. Wonders never cease. So I'm going to use Twilight again. So let's take that Twilight. Really good inking. And you can see I don't scrimp on that ink with the Twilight. Just going to, now I can have a little bit of text there. Just take a little bit of that off. And then we'll add this Auricula here. like so. And then just give that a press. Just give that time just to make an impression on there. Don't be in too much of a rush. And even if you've only got 5 minutes creative time, well, leave it there. Don't do any more and then come back to it. So let's just, one finger, just give that a press, holding those in place, a little press again. And it's more about giving that time just to make an impression on there. Right, let's just place that back because I know what will happen. We'll say, where is it? Oh, I actually still need it. What am I talking about? So let's place the auricula back. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the insect stamp, TE27, with the moth on there. And there's this little sort of leafy image. So let's grab my small acrylic block. Now I want something that's going to be really bright in colour. Let's try the oxides. I'm obviously going to add some pencil work. I'm just going to do it on here. That's nice and sort of bright. So I'm going to use Salty Ocean. So let's take that Salty Ocean. And I don't think I actually need, I don't need a mask, to be honest. I can just add that here. Obviously I'm going to add more colour, but I can just add, I can even extend, I've just put my finger on that and just wipe the colour off. Just thought I'd share that with you. I can even extend this a little bit and make it longer. So I can extend that, and obviously I'm going to add, can you see that, a little more colour and depth to that. Let's add a little more there. And that's why sometimes the little stamps are just invaluable. Well, I think they are. Because there's so much you can do with them. So let's just add a bit. So at the moment, I'm just working on my composition at the moment. And then let's add a little bit around here. There we go. Don't want to add any more. I will do, yes, I will. But what we're going to do, no, we'll add it now in the brown. Take that blue off, and now we're going to take the gathered twigs. I'll just stamp that moisture off. So I'm going to take the gathered twigs. And it's got a bit of moisture on there, so it beads up a little bit, but that doesn't matter. So I'm just adding some with the gathered twigs. And again, you just have to sort of bear with me because obviously I am going to add more colour to this, obviously. There we go. So we'll leave that as it is at the moment. And I'm very naughty because I've changed my mind on what I'm colouring with. So I'm going to get my Ecoline pens, bear with me. And of course, they're in a cupboard all shut away. So let's move my trolley. The advantage of having something on wheels. And I've got my Ecoline pens. You could use your distress pencils. I'm going to use my Ecoline pens. Let's see if we've got some nice blues. Bring in a piece of card that you're going to use. So what's this one? Ultramarine. Look how rich that is. That is lovely. Ultramarine. That's it. And roll your pen straight through it, Tracy. Ultramarine. And have you got a pale colour? Turquoise blue. Oh, yes. So shall we, and then have we got sort of a lightish, I can hardly see that. What colour are you? Oh yes, there we go. So shall we? I'll get my words out in a minute. Bring in the acrylic block. We want our brush that we can use with some water. Let's place a little bit of water on there. And I'm going to start off with my darkest colour, which in this case is the ultramarine light. I will give you the numbers. Ultramarine light, which is 505. Pick up a little bit of water and I can just, oh, it blends on this paper beautifully. Now don't forget you've got the oxides underneath there. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of that and bring in a little bit of that colour. I'm going to bring in, I could also, if I wanted to, you can also blend sort of pen to pen. So take your lighter colour, which in this case is turquoise blue 522. So it's up to you which way you do it. So I'm just going to, and if I dab this now, it's going to bleach out some of that browny colour. Let's pick up this turquoise a little bit again. So we're just playing a little bit at the moment. So, and you can see that I'm sort of doing one. This pen is super juicy. And then if I pick up the tinted water, I can blend this out. Even though it's picking up the brown a little bit, that's fine. You can just dab up the moisture. And then we can add a little bit of the ultramarine. And then you can blend that out. There are so many ways that we could do this. So for a start, let's just pick this up. If you want to, you can pick up your moisture and you can instantly add your water straight away to the petals if you wish. Not that I've got any clean kitchen roll, but... And then you can dab some of the colour out initially if you wish, and then go in and add your ultramarine light and then blend that out, the ultramarine light. I'm not doing anything technical, I'm just dabbing the ultramarine light and then picking up the tinted water and blending that out just with a little bit of the tinted water. Let's do one flower at a time. So let's give that a dry, kitchen roll bits there. So let's give that a dry just so that we can add another layer of that colour. So I'm going to go back with the ultramarine. Let's leave the lids off and then come with the turquoise blue. And then I'll just pick up the water and then just dab that. So I'll come with the ultramarine with another layer of that colour. Don't put the lids on, Tracy, because that gets frustrating for the audience. And then just come in with the turquoise blue, which was the 522, pick up the tinted water, and because we've got that wonderful card on there, it takes moisture and allows you to move the water. It works really well. Pick up the tinted water, which has got, in other words, it's tinted with the same colour. And we'll go all the way around again. Normally I do one petal at a time. However, because the ink moves beautifully on this page, I don't need to worry. But with the Ecolines, I do feel that you need to blend when the ink is wet. So you sort of get a better blend if the ink is wet. So let's give that a dry. Now just remember, you've got your touches of white to add as well. So give that a little bit of a dry. And I'm just going to come in with the Sepia Light 439, and I'm just going to add a little bit of the Sepia Light. Let's have some clean water. And just come in with the Sepia Light. Just pick up a little bit of the Sepia Light. I'm just going to put this on my acrylic block and just pick up a little bit of the Sepia Light. So I'm going to add, and I'm going to do the same with this floral as well. But we can do that in a second. So let's just add a little bit around this centre. Let's pick up the tinted colour and just bring in some of that colour. Now I don't want the centre to be exactly the same colour as this outside layer. So I'm going to, oh, wrong colour. Going to start again with the ultramarine light, then come in with my next pen which was the turquoise blue. Do you like the stall there, because I couldn't sort of work out what it was called. So let's pick up the tinted colour, and now we can just blend that out. Just blend out with a little bit of the tinted colour. It just makes it a little bit more seamless with using the tint. May as well do this area as well now, because we know what we're doing. We've experimented with our first flower, so we know exactly what we're doing. Just come in with a little bit of the there. That's better. So we've got the basis of our colour. This needs to be dried so that we add another colour, another layer, another colour. You can use your oxides should you wish. That's entirely up to you. So I'm coming around. I'll just do those three first. Just add a little bit of the colour, a little bit of water, and I'm using the tint of the colour just to blend that out. So coming with that darker colour again, then with the lighter colour, and then using the tint just to blend out that colour. And I've used the Ecolines just because on that darker background they will be a little bit more vibrant before I add the pencil. If you wanted it even more vibrant, you could add white paint first, and that will make it really vibrant for you. But obviously I still want it to look slightly vintage as well. Now I need to make sure that this is completely dry. I can't really come in with pencils if it's not completely dry. So you can see how much I have dried that. And then I just chucked my heat tool on the floor, which is really handy. But that is completely dry and it's very hot. So we just need to give that time just to cool down a little bit. And then whilst we do that, I'm just going to have a look at some colours. So let's have a look at some colours. Nope. You watch it be the colour that isn't sharpened. No. What about that one? That's better. Let's have a look at richer colour. Come on. No. This is where Tracy faffs around. I know I want that pale colour. What colour is this? I want a really rich. Oh no. That's quite nice. Where's that other one? No. You too can pull every blue pen out that you've got. I quite like that one. And this is where obviously if you've got a swatch, you know what you've got. Well, I don't swatch, so therefore I always test on the card anyway, to be honest. That's just me all over, is to test on the card. Right, let's bring in my sharpener, just so that we've got that sharpener. So we have China Blue PC1100. I've then got, that's reasonably sharp, True Blue PC903, and then I have the Cloud Blue. And then what I've forgotten is I wanted a sort of a soft sandy colour. Let's grab a soft sandy colour. Where's that? A really sort of soft, what colour are you? Like a putty colour. Oh, there you go. That's perfect. So what's this one called? This one, oh, there you go. Putty beige. That's just exactly what I want. And I've got it to a nice point, just so that you can see that. That putty colour is just beautiful. And what I'm going to do is, with the putty colour, I'm just going to come around, just around the floor. And because it's nice and sharp, I can come in with a little bit of that potty colour. Now don't come in too hard, you just sort of want to be a little bit mindful that you don't press too hard. Let's come in with that potty colour. So I'm just coming in with a little bit of putty. What a wonderful colour that is. Obviously, if you're using your oxides, you can come in with a pale colour with your oxides. Just to add a little bit of that potty. So the Ecoline pens have sort of given me a base, if you like, a little bit of a base. So I'm really pressing very lightly. And if I whisper, it makes me feel like I'm pressing lighter as well. Just don't ask me why I whisper when I press lightly. It's just one of those bizarre, strange things about Tracy. I'm slightly odd, I think we could say. We can just take our time now just to add, let's bring this in, another layer of our colour. And I'm not going to come in too hard. So let's get that dark colour, which is the China Blue, which is PC1100. And I'm sort of going to come in inside that potty colour. Just make a little bit darker. Now I've got a base of colour down there, so I don't need to come in too hard at all, but this is just going to give me a little bit more depth. Just to make it sing a little bit more. Now this blue is beautiful. And I'm coming inside the potty because that will just make that blue pop a little bit more. Let's just, but I'm being very mindful not to press too hard. Now, you know I do like colouring, so sometimes I don't half faff, but I love a good faff. I can see the difference just with the pencil work with that compared to that. Just beautiful. I can see that pencil work. And I'm just going to add a little bit to the leaves as well. Just to make that pop a little bit more. So I'm just bringing in a little touch of that blue to the leaves. So just because something is a silhouette stamp does not mean it has to be that colour. This colour is beautiful, this China blue. We can bring the line in a little bit darker as well. And again, Tracy loses herself just in that process. What a beautiful blue that is. There we go. Just beautiful. We'll go back to the brown ones. I was thinking, where are the brown ones? And with the brown ones, I'm just going to add a little bit of the putty just all over, just so I can see those a little bit more. Now again, I am not pressing hard, just over the brown leaves that I added. I love the journal for experimenting. If I make a mistake, I embrace it. That's just who I am. So I'm going to come in again now, just with this darker blue. And I'm so glad that I record the videos, because then I can come back and remember this delightful blue. So let's just bring that in. And it doesn't take much work. It just goes onto that page beautifully. Let's go around, come in a little bit of this. And let's just it really sort of brings in that detail. The difference with that colour is immense, how much that adds to the page. Obviously, when we add those touches of white, that's really going to help as well. So let's come to our next colour, which is the True Blue PC 903. And this has had a little bit of time to rest, which I like. And I'm just going to come in just with a little bit of that that True Blue PC 903. Let's come with this. And the pencil work really does do its job here. If you didn't want to use the Ecolines, you could quite easily just come in with your pencils. I just think with the base colour, it's got more intensity and more layers, and it works rather nicely, just to build up that intensity of colour. Oh, that is just wonderful. Again, another blue that is, what a delightful colour. which just pops against that vintage background. Works rather nicely. Let's bring a little bit in here as well. And then I'm going to come with my cloud blue PC1023 just to blend. But just look how the colours pop against that. Oh, love it. Absolutely love it. I love sort of losing myself a little bit as well. So let's come in with the cloud blue. And trust me, I'm hardly pressing at all. But because we stamped in that twilight, it just looks lovely because we haven't stamped it in the black. Because on this occasion, I didn't want to stamp in the black. I wanted it to be all about the vintage brown and the blue. There we go. This cloud blue is a lovely colour as well, especially for blending. Just to give a little bit of a blend. And again, as I always say, because I'm not coming in too hard, I can actually come in again with another layer of that colour. And I always think once you've got the base layer down, that really helps. It does help if I remember the little leaves as well. Let's just remember those. Because that's just as important as the florals. There we go. If you like sitting out in your garden, you can do your colouring in your garden. Although mine's pretty wet from the rain, which it needed, but it's soaking now. There we go. So I'm going to come in with that cloud blue. Just sort of against the tips of the little leaves. I'll come and add a little bit more depth to the brown ones later. There we go. I have to say, just loving, absolutely loving that. And you can see obviously we need the touches of white. So let's come in with our next layer, and you can see whether you can place any more pigment down. And I can, because I've not pressed too hard at all. And I can get away with just 2 layers because I've already put other layers down. And the key is to not press too hard on that. I just have to remember to speak, which, trust me, is not that easy when I'm so engrossed. Oh, wonderful. And again, I can even tell, just adding this second layer, that even that is adding more intensity. Of that colour, even richer and deeper. Just to add a little bit more deepness down there. Then we'll come in with our second colour, which is that True Blue PC 903. And you know, I get so engrossed, I totally forget about the camera. I personally, when you get a result like this, I think it's worth adding all those layers, because you've gone from something that a lot of the time you might stamp in black, and you've just made it look completely different, which I just adore. The fact that you've just made it look completely different. I have to say, the paper in this journal, I'm so pleased I stocked these in my shop, because it's just fantastic. Did I forget the inside? I think I did, didn't I? Yes, you did. So let's just add the darkness. The inside. And let's come with that lighter pencil. Then we'll come with just add a little bit more darkness down here. It makes such a huge difference. Let's come in with that paler colour. And now we'll get our Cloud Blue, which is the very pale colour. And we'll just come in and just blend that out. There we go. Just blend the edges out with your Cloud Blue. And let's do this as well, which I nearly forgot. And you can actually see it blending before your eyes. And you can just take your time. Obviously, in some ways, I go maybe a little bit quicker than if I was sitting at home with no camera. Just look. Oh, just love that. Absolutely love it. And you can even come in again with a little bit more of that darkness just on the leaves again. Just to give a little bit more dimension. Just on that dark little touch. I'm going to lift this up so you can see the leaves as well. But look at the leaves as well. I haven't done the brown ones, but look at them leaves as well. Just love that. It's so gorgeously rich. I'm going to take my white pencil. Now, that's a new one. Have I not got my little small white pencil? I've got my container here. My little container here. There it is. To try and not faff so much. And then we'll give that a sharpen. Again, I've got a nice sharp point. Just so you can see that. Got a lovely sharp point on there. And then I'm just going to just use my pencil just to add some touches of white. Now with the white pencil, it's going to be very subtle because it's not like you're applying the white pencil with the Posca pen. I'm obviously going to use the Posca pen, but I want to add some penciling as well, just to build up very slowly some of that white. And because I've got a really dark base, I'm going to lift this up just so that you can see. If I lift this up, you can see, let's go on a one I haven't done, and you can see that it just adds a little, let's see if the camera can focus. It's like, don't be stupid. There you go. You can just see little touches of white because I'm not going to build up the white too firmly just yet. Just building up a few little touches of white, and then I'm going to come in but sort of a little bit firmer. Just to add a little bit of white to the tips. Now, I'm not adding much, I'm just adding it here and there because I am going to use my Posca pen just to add. There we go. I'm going to use my Posca pen now. Again, I should have, did I put it in my jar? What did I say? To spend less time faffing. Why can I, oh, I can see two Posca pens. Talking rubbish. This one looks newer than that one, so I'm sure it's this one. I'm just giving that a clean because it's got brown on there, and that's because I've gone on to brown oxide and it's picked that up. So I'm just making sure if we can add, there we go. I'm holding my pen very loosely so that I don't have big clumps. So I can still see the pencil work underneath, but I'm not pressing too hard. Being quite gentle. And if I hold my fingers a little bit further up the pen, it stops me pressing too hard. Let's just have a little bit of white in here. A little bit of white in here. Just stops me pressing that too hard. And again, let's go in very gently. Just very gently. Don't press too hard. Just be mindful that you don't want these big sort of clumps. And then I want to add a little, few touches of white here. Plus, I don't want to add too much white and obliterate that blue. So just be sort of mindful of that. I'm just going to sort of add a little touch of white, sort of doodled and scribbled around that floral a little bit. I'm not sort of following the line completely, I'm just adding little touches, doodly little lines here and there, just to give little touches of white. And then I'm going to add a touch of white to the leaves. Just to make that pop a little bit more. Let me just show you. Just makes that pop a little bit more as well. It really does make it pop a little bit more. Now I just need to get a darker pencil for the leaves. So a little darker brown. I want a really dark one. Where are you? That'll be fine. So I've just got Sepia PC 948. So Sepia 948. And I'm just going to add a little bit more depth to the dark brown leaves, just so that those stand out a little bit more as well. Just to give them a little bit more depth, and then I can just use that putty colour that we're using, 1083, just to blend that out a little bit. There we go. And then we'll use the Posca just to add little touches of white to the brown leaves as well. There we go. So let's move these all out of the way because you can't see a thing. And then if I go back to the Auricula stamp, it's perfectly got some text on there, which says, often displayed in individual pots on shelves. Now I just want it as a background element. I'm not too bothered about, you know, often displayed. Yeah, I should put a little arrow on there so that I can see where I'm going. And then I'm going to add a little touch of white embossing just to make my page pop even more, because I like doing that. Anti-static bag. Now you know I've dried this page thoroughly, so I'm absolutely fine. Again, the anti-static bag will not do its job if your page isn't dry. Your page needs to be dry. So let's take, now I'm not looking for the text to, you read every word as it is. It's just to give some touches of white. I'm just going to add a couple and then I'll come back and have a look at what they look like. I can't see anything, and neither will you, because it's just clear ink. And thankfully I have my copy paper all ready so that you're not waiting for me to find it. So we had a bit here, didn't we? We had a bit somewhere there. Oh yes, that was a good guess. And was it somewhere here? Yeah, there we go. Let's just tip that back. And I'm going to be very cautious and just, now let's heat our heat tool up. I absolutely love this. And you know, I love stamp 1 as much as I love stamp 40 whatever. I just love them. That little bit, you know, just the right amount. Nothing more needed with that white embossing. So let's put that out of the way. Let me lift that up for you so you can see that. Oh, just gorgeous. Love it. I'm then going to take the same text stamp. No, and I'm going to use, first of all, I'm going to try Sand Dune, just to see if it shows up. So I'm going to take Sand Dune Versafine Clair, so the Sand Dune, and just see if that shows up a little bit of text. Oh yes, I'm going to lift it up and I'll show you, because it adds to the page, but not too much. I just love this. Let's just add a little bit of text there. I will lift this up and then you can see. So I'm adding layers that now won't detract too much from what I've already got. It actually adds to it. Yes, so that's Sand Dune. We'll then go to Portobello. But before I go to Portobello, I'm going to lift it up just so you can see the text. Text, 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 text. Text. It just adds lovely layers, not overpowering layers. Then we're going to go to Portobello, in the same area, but it'll just bring a little bit more darkness. But it looks considered, not just dumped on the page. And I'm going near where I've stamped already. That's perfect. So that's Portobello. I'm going to just give this a dry because I've got layers on there. So we don't want to smudge any of those delightful layers. So I'm just giving that a little bit of a waft dry. I'm going to show you Portobello, Sand Dune, Portobello, Sand Dune, Portobello, Sand Dune, Portobello, and the white as well. So now I'm going to add my splatters of white, but have my heat tool ready to dry reasonably quickly. So I'm just going to dry them, then they won't react too much to the Distress Oxide. Obviously you can use your bleed proof paint so that it stays completely white. So let's take this and dry this, and then I'm going to show you something. Now you can see that the white is still taken on the blue, which is from the what are the pens called? Ecoline pens, because it picks up the blue from that. Now if you don't want that, you can use your bleed proof, she says. So I'm just going to pick up, you can add this to a pot because you can reactivate it. But trust me, if I have any more pots in this room, you'll feel suffocated. So I've just pulled a bit of that out. So you can put yours into like a paint palette. And if you leave it in that paint palette, you can reactivate it. So I'm going to, then I'm going to take my fan brush. Then we'll add the white. Now this is bleed proof, so therefore stays white. So let's just clean that up. I'll just wipe that for now and then I'll clean that afterwards. Just leave that there. But that will stay white because it's bleed proof. So let's just give that a dry, because I don't want to put my black wording onto any of this wet ink. So then I'll take the Auricula, the wording Auricula that's on the same Auricula stamp. And if you're like me, you've got bits of paint and everything on your acrylic block, the tools, it's fine. So we're going to take black ink now. I'll take that black ink. I need to make sure that doesn't fall off because I know how much I've used this stamp. So I'm then going to stamp the Auricula just onto the page. Now, if I stamp the Auricula like that, can you see it gets lost? So we don't want to do that. So we'll now stamp this with the black ink onto white card, because then it'll just pop a little bit more. Just grab my scissors. There we go. Just cut this down a little bit. And we'll cut it down a little bit more because I don't want too much card. And if I use the sort of the bigger scissors, there's more chance of me getting it straight. Trust me, most of the time I don't. So we're now going to add this to our page. So I can add that in exactly the place I added the stamping. Oh, I love that page. I'm just going to clean that, then use my finger as a guide just to get it back in again. Then take our Inktense pencil. Let's make sure, let's hold your page up sometimes, because then you can see if your sentiment is straight, if you're looking at it straight on. There we go. So we then look frantically for the brush that you can't find anywhere, because now it's under everything. I used the fan brush. What did I do with the brush? You know, I used the end, didn't I? Sometimes you can't see things for looking, and I haven't put it back in there. Oh, Tracy. Might have gone under. Oh, it's there. Couldn't see it for the surface. It's got blue on there, so we really need to make sure that that is clean. And you can see how pigmented the Ecolines are as well, because how many times I'm having to clean that brush. Just blend that out. There we go. And that is our lovely page finished. Let's fold that over so you can see that. I just love it. So I hope you've enjoyed the page along with me, and I hope you'll give that a go. Now, obviously, when I'm looking at that, you can add, just while we're here, a little bit more sort of shading. Have you noticed every time I say, oh, I'm going to go now, and have you noticed then I come and do some more shading? I'm just using, that isn't enough. And this is what's good about journal pages. You can just come back. You can just add a little bit of shading at the bottom there. Just so you can see that. You can also add a little bit of the shading just where the two flowers meet as well. Let's just blend that out, just to add a little bit more of that shading. Blend it a bit more. There we go. And I promise now that's me finished, just so that you can see you've got a bit more shading on there. So I hope you've enjoyed that, and I hope you'll give it a go. Love to all, and I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.